The paperwork hit my kitchen table with enough force to rattle my coffee cup. My son Tyler stood over me, his face red, his expensive suit jacket open, his fiancée Madison hovering behind him with her arms crossed. My name is Robert Mitchell. I'm 64 years old, a retired electrical contractor in Boise, Idaho. I built my business from nothing, worked 60-hour weeks for 40 years, and saved every dollar I could. My wife Ellen and I raised 2 sons in a modest 3-bedroom house, paid for their college educations, and planned for a retirement that would let us travel and enjoy the years we had left. Ellen died 3 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. I'd been planning our first real vacation in 20 years, a cruise to Alaska. She never got to take it. Now Tyler, my oldest at 32, was standing in my kitchen demanding I sign over my life savings for his wedding. The venue requires a deposit of $80,000 by Friday, he said, not sitting down, not asking how I was doing, just standing there like a lawyer delivering an ultimatum. The total package is $240,000, but Madison's parents are covering $150,000. We need you to cover the rest. I looked at the paperwork, a contract for the Riverside Estate, Boise's most exclusive wedding venue. 300 guests, a 7-course dinner, ice sculptures, a live orchestra, fireworks display. Tyler, that's a lot of money for one day, I said quietly. It's not just one day, Dad. It's the most important day of our lives. Madison deserves the wedding she's always dreamed of. Madison stepped forward. She was 28, worked in marketing for a tech company, and drove a BMW her parents had bought her. Mr. Mitchell, my family has very high expectations. My sister's wedding last year cost $400,000. We're already scaling back significantly. I set down the contract. I'm happy to contribute something reasonable. Maybe $20,000. That's what I gave your brother for his wedding. Tyler's jaw tightened. Derek got married in a backyard with a taco truck. That's not what we're talking about here. Derek and Amy have been married 6 years. They own a home. They're happy. They're financially stable. Because they have no standards, Tyler snapped. Dad, you have over $300,000 in savings, Ellen's life insurance, your retirement accounts, the sale of the business. You're living in the same house you've had for 30 years, driving a 10-year-old truck. You don't need that money. We do. The entitlement in his voice hit me like a slap. Not can you help us. Not we'd appreciate anything you could contribute. Just you don't need it. We do. I'm not signing this, I said. Madison's eyes narrowed. We knew you'd be difficult about this. That's why we came prepared. She pulled out her phone and showed me a spreadsheet. This is a breakdown of everything you've spent on Derek over the years. His college tuition, his wedding, the down payment you gave him for his house. It totals $186,000. You owe Tyler equal treatment. I stared at the spreadsheet. They'd actually calculated it, tracked every dollar like accountants auditing a disputed inheritance. Tyler got the same college funding Derek did, I said. The rest were gifts based on need and circumstance. Derek was buying his first home. You and Madison both make 6 figures. That's not the point, Tyler said. The point is fairness. You gave Derek almost $200,000. I'm asking for $90,000. That's less than half. You're not asking. You're demanding. Because you're being unreasonable. Tyler's voice rose. Madison and I have worked hard. We deserve this wedding. Her parents are paying their share. You need to pay yours. I looked at my son, at the stranger wearing his face. When had this happened? When had the boy who used to help me wire electrical panels turned into this entitled, demanding man who saw me as nothing more than a bank account? No, I said simply. Tyler grabbed the contract off the table. Fine. Then you're not invited to the wedding. Madison and I will remember this. When you're old and need help, don't come crying to us. They left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, looking at the empty chair where Ellen used to sit. She would have known what to say, how to handle this. She always did. But Ellen was gone, and I was alone, with a son who saw me as an ATM and a decision that would define our relationship forever. That night, I pulled out my financial records. Ellen's life insurance had paid $150,000. My retirement accounts held another $180,000. The sale of my contracting business had brought in $120,000. After 3 years of modest living, I had about $340,000 in various accounts. It was enough to live comfortably for another 20 years if I was careful. Enough to help my sons in a real emergency. Not enough to waste on ice sculptures and fireworks. I also pulled out my will. Tyler and Derek were set to split everything equally when I died. That suddenly seemed like a mistake. Over the next week, Tyler called 6 times. I didn't answer. Madison sent increasingly aggressive emails, threatening to sue me for financial abuse and withholding family assets. I deleted them without responding. Derek called on Thursday. "Dad, Tyler's telling people you're being cruel and selfish. He says you have plenty of money but won't help with his wedding." "Is that what he's saying?" "Yeah. Look, I told him he's being ridiculous, but he's really upset. He thinks you don't love him as much as you love me." I felt something crack inside my chest. "Derek, I gave Tyler the same college funding I gave you. I've helped him every time he's had a real need. But a $250,000 wedding isn't a need. It's vanity." "I know, Dad. I agree with you. But he's my brother. He's making this into a family civil war. Let him. I'm not funding his ego." Friday came and went. Tyler missed the venue deposit deadline. He left a voicemail calling me selfish, heartless, and a terrible father. On Monday, I received a letter from an attorney. Tyler was suing me for breach of implied contract and discriminatory gifting practices, demanding I provide $90,000 or be held liable for the emotional distress caused by his having to downgrade his wedding. I called my own attorney, Harold Vance, a friend who'd handled my business contracts for 20 years. "This is garbage," Harold said after reading the letter. "No court will enforce this. He's just trying to intimidate you." "Can I countersue for harassment?" "You could, but that escalates things further. Is that what you want?" I thought about it. Tyler was my son. Despite everything, some part of me still hoped this could be resolved, that he'd come to his senses, apologize, realize how far he'd gone. "Not yet," I said. "Let's respond with a firm rejection and see what happens." Harold sent a letter telling Tyler's attorney the lawsuit was frivolous and would be vigorously defended. The response came within days. They were proceeding to court. That's when I made my decision. I called my financial advisor, Patricia Morrison, and gave her instructions that took her 3 days to execute. Then I bought a safe, not a large one, just a small fireproof box with a combination lock. I placed one item inside, along with an envelope, and stored it in my bedroom closet. 3 weeks after the initial confrontation, Tyler showed up at my door again. This time he was alone. No Madison, no anger, just exhaustion. "Dad, can we talk?" I let him in. He sat on the couch where he used to watch cartoons as a kid, where Ellen and I had read him bedtime stories. "The wedding is off," he said. "We postponed it. Madison's parents found a venue that costs less, but it's booked for 18 months. We're looking at a spring wedding 2 years from now. I'm sorry it didn't work out." He looked at me. "Are you? Because it feels like you wanted this to fail." "I wanted you to make a responsible decision. This venue was never realistic. For you, maybe, but Madison and I work hard. We have careers. We deserve nice things." Deserving nice things and demanding other people pay for them are different concepts, Tyler. His face hardened. "So that's it? You're just going to let me twist in the wind. I offered you $20,000. That's a generous wedding gift by any standard. It's an insult compared to what you gave Derek. We were going in circles, the same arguments, the same resentment. Tyler stood up. When you die, I'm contesting the will. Whatever you leave Derek, I'm suing for equal shares plus compensation for your favoritism. He left without saying goodbye. That evening, I updated my will. The new version left everything to charity, with one exception. Derek would receive Ellen's wedding ring and a few personal items. Tyler would receive the safe. I called Derek that night. I need to tell you something about the will. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Listen to me. When I die, you're going to receive your mother's ring and a few other personal items. Everything else goes to charity. Tyler gets a safe with something inside. Don't open it. Don't try to convince him not to open it. Just let him open it. What's in the safe? Something he needs to see. Dad, what are you planning? Justice Derek. Just a different kind than Tyler expects. 6 months passed. Tyler and Madison sent a Christmas card with no personal message, just their printed names. I sent them nothing. I spent the holidays with Derek and Amy and their 2 kids. We cooked dinner together, played board games, talked about everything except Tyler. He called me last week, Derek said on Christmas night after the kids were in bed. Asked if I thought you'd change your mind if he apologized. What did you tell him? That apologies require sincerity, not strategy. I smiled. Derek had always been the wise one. In February, I had a health scare. Chest pains that turned out to be anxiety, not a heart attack. But sitting in that emergency room, I thought about Ellen, about time running out, about conversations I'd never have. I called Tyler from the hospital. Dad? He sounded surprised. Are you okay? I'm fine. Minor scare, but it made me think. I want to see you. We met for coffee 3 days later. He looked thinner, stressed. Madison wasn't with him. How are you? I asked. Honestly, not great. Work is intense, wedding planning is hell, and Madison's parents keep comparing everything to her sister's perfect day. What about Madison? Tyler stirred his coffee. She's difficult sometimes. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to impress people. I suggested we elope. Just have a simple ceremony. She threatened to call off the wedding entirely. Do you love her? The question hung between us. I think so, he said finally. But sometimes I wonder if I love who she is or who I thought she was. For a moment, I saw my son again. Not the entitled man demanding money, but the uncertain boy trying to figure out his life. Tyler, marriage is hard. Your mother and I had rough patches. But we got through them because we prioritized each other over appearances, over what other people thought. I know, Dad. I got caught up in Madison's vision. Her family has money. They live differently. I wanted to prove I could give her that life. At what cost? He looked at me. I said terrible things to you. I know I did. I was angry and scared, and I took it out on you. Why scared? Because Madison's parents kept saying I couldn't provide for her properly, that I was marrying above my station. I wanted to prove them wrong. I reached across the table and put my hand on his. Son, you don't prove anything by spending money you don't have. You prove it by building a life that lasts. Tyler's eyes were wet. I'm sorry, Dad. For all of it, the demands, the lawsuit, the things I said. I forgive you. We talked for 2 hours about Ellen, about his childhood, about the pressure he'd been under. It felt like a breakthrough, like maybe we could rebuild what had been broken. As we were leaving, Tyler asked, Dad, about the wedding gift. I know I don't deserve anything after how I acted, but if you could still contribute the $20,000 you offered, it would help. We're trying to do something smaller, more meaningful. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say yes, to reward this moment of honesty. But another part, the part that remembered the lawsuit and the threats, held back. Let me think about it, I said. A month later, Tyler sent me a new wedding invitation. The venue was a local botanical garden. The guest list was down to 100 people. The budget was $35,000, mostly covered by savings he and Madison had built up. He included a note. "Dad, I hope you'll be there. I'm sorry for everything. I'm trying to do better." I sent back an RSVP that I'd attend, but I didn't include a check. The wedding was in May, a beautiful spring day with flowers blooming throughout the garden. Tyler wore a simple suit. Madison looked lovely in a dress that probably cost less than the shoes she'd planned for the original wedding. The ceremony was short and heartfelt. Tyler's vows mentioned learning what really mattered, about choosing love over appearances. Madison's mentioned growth and compromise. During the reception, Tyler found me at my table. "Dad, thank you for coming. It means everything." "It's a beautiful wedding, son. Your mother would have loved it." "We should have done it this way from the start." He paused. "I want you to know, I dropped the lawsuit 6 months ago. My attorney said it was nonsense anyway, but more than that, I realized I was wrong. About all of it." "I know. Can we start over? Build back what I broke? We can try." Over the next 2 years, Tyler and I slowly rebuilt our relationship. He and Madison struggled in their marriage, eventually going to counseling and working through the issues that had driven the initial wedding madness. Derek told me Madison's parents had cut them off financially after they refused to maintain the lifestyle the family expected. Tyler started calling every week, not about money, just to talk. He asked about Ellen, about my business, about how I'd built a life from nothing. He started attending Derek's family barbecues, reconnecting with his brother. I never told him about the safe, never mentioned the will. In my 3rd year after the wedding, I was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. Never smoked a day in my life, just bad luck. The doctors gave me 18 months with treatment, maybe less. I called both my sons immediately. They rallied around me, taking turns driving me to chemotherapy, helping maintain the house, just being present. Tyler took a leave of absence from work to be my primary caregiver. He moved into my guest room, cooked meals, managed medications, and sat with me during the worst days. "You don't have to do this," I told him one difficult night. "Yes, I do. You've been here for me my whole life. I need to be here for you now. Even after everything." He took my hand. "Especially after everything. You taught me what really matters, Dad. It just took me a while to learn." The cancer was aggressive. By month 10, I was in hospice care at home. Derek and Tyler took shifts, making sure I was never alone. One evening, with both sons present, I told them about the will. "Everything goes to charity except a few items. Derek, you get your mother's ring and some personal effects. Tyler, you get a safe from my bedroom closet." Tyler nodded. "Okay, Dad, whatever you want." "Don't open it until after the funeral," I said. "Promise me." "I promise." I died 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning, with both sons holding my hands. The last thing I saw was Tyler's face, crying, telling me he loved me. The funeral was small, just family, and a few old friends from the contracting business. Tyler gave the eulogy, talking about lessons learned, about grace and forgiveness, about a father who never gave up on his sons even when they gave up on themselves. After the service, at Derek's house, Tyler mentioned the safe. "Should I open it now?" he asked. Dad said after the funeral, Derek reminded him. "The funeral's over." Derek hesitated. "I think he meant after everyone's gone, when you're alone." That's what it felt like he was saying. Tyler nodded. "Okay, I'll take it home tonight, open it there." That evening, Tyler called Derek. His voice was shaking. "You need to come over. Now, Bring Amy. Derek drove to Tyler's apartment. Tyler was sitting on his couch, the safe open on the coffee table in front of him. His face was pale, eyes red from crying. Inside the safe was a single penny and a folded letter. Derek picked up the letter. Tyler's hand shot out. Don't. It's for me, but I need to tell you what it says. He unfolded the letter, his hands trembling. It's dated 3 years ago, right after I demanded the money for the wedding. Tyler read aloud. Dear Tyler, if you're reading this, I'm gone. This safe represents something I want you to understand. The penny inside is worth 1 cent. That's how much value you placed on our relationship when you demanded I fund your wedding. 1 cent's worth of respect. 1 cent's worth of love. 1 cent's worth of seeing me as a human being rather than an ATM. I forgive you for that, son. I forgave you the moment you apologized, the moment you showed up to care for me, the moment you chose our relationship over your pride. But I never forgot the lesson you needed to learn. The real inheritance I'm leaving you isn't money. It's understanding. Every dollar I saved came from decades of hard work, sacrifice, and careful planning. Your mother and I drove old cars so you boys could have new opportunities. We lived in a small house so you could go to good schools. We skipped vacations so you could have stable childhoods. You wanted to spend in one day what it took me years to save, not because you needed it, but because you felt entitled to it. The charity receiving my estate will use that money to help people who actually need it. Families facing medical crises, kids who can't afford college, people trying to rebuild after disasters. You don't need my money, Tyler. You never did. You have intelligence, education, and opportunities your mother and I never had. What you needed was to learn that wealth isn't about impressing people. It's about security, about helping others, about building something that lasts. If you're reading this with anger, thinking I've cheated you out of your inheritance, then you still haven't learned. Close the safe, walk away, and think about why a man would choose charity over his own son. But if you're reading this with understanding, with recognition of how far you've fallen and how far you've climbed back, then you've already received the real inheritance, wisdom. The penny is a reminder. Every time you're tempted to judge your worth by your possessions, look at it. Remember that your mother and I raised you to be a good man, not a rich one. I love you, son. I always have. Even when you made it hard. Especially when you made it hard. Build a life that matters. That's worth more than any amount I could leave you. Love, Dad. Tyler set down the letter, picked up the penny, and held it in his palm. He wrote this 3 years ago, he whispered, when I was suing him. When I was calling him selfish and cruel. He already knew what he was going to do, but he still gave me chances to learn. Derek sat beside his brother. What are you thinking? I'm thinking he was right. About all of it. I spent 2 years learning lessons he tried to teach me in one conversation. Tyler looked at the penny. This is worth more than $300,000. How? Because it's a reminder of who I was, and who I don't want to be again. Because he forgave me, even knowing I'd open this safe one day and read this letter. Because he loved me enough to leave me something that would actually help me rather than something that would just make me comfortable. Over the next few months, Tyler had the letter framed alongside the penny. He hung it in his home office, a constant reminder. Madison didn't understand at first. Your father left everything to charity and gave you a penny and a lecture. He gave me something more valuable, Tyler said. He gave me truth. Their marriage improved after that. Tyler stopped trying to prove himself to Madison's family, stopped measuring success by possessions and appearances. When Madison's parents criticized their modest lifestyle, Tyler would touch the penny in his pocket and remember what actually mattered. Derek and Tyler grew closer than they'd been since childhood. They started a tradition of having dinner together every Sunday, talking about their father and the lessons they were still learning. On the 1-year anniversary of my death, Tyler did something unexpected. He started a scholarship fund in my name at the local community college, supporting students studying skilled trades like electrical work. He contributed $5,000 of his own money to start it, then raised another $15,000 from people who'd known me. Dad always said there was dignity in working with your hands, Tyler told the college president at the fund's announcement. He built a business, raised a family, and saved for the future by doing honest work. That's what this scholarship represents. The local paper ran a story about it. The headline read, "Son honors father's legacy with trade scholarship." The article mentioned the unusual inheritance, the penny and the letter, though Tyler asked them not to print the letter's full text. Some lessons are private, he told the reporter. But the principle is universal. Value isn't measured in dollars. At the scholarship announcement, a former colleague of mine approached Tyler. "Your father was one of the most honest men I ever knew. He could have made a lot more money if he'd cut corners like some contractors did, but he never did. Said his reputation was worth more than profit." Tyler thought about that. His whole life, I'd been teaching him about value, about integrity, about building things that lasted. He'd just been too busy looking at what other people had to notice what he already possessed. 5 years after my death, Tyler and Madison had their first child, a boy. They named him Robert after me. Derek called Tyler the day Robert was born. "Dad, we've loved this." "I know," Tyler said. "I wish she could meet him." "In a way, he will. You're going to tell Robert about him, about the lessons, about what really matters." That night, lying in the hospital room with Madison asleep and baby Robert in his arms, Tyler thought about the safe, about the penny, about the letter that had changed his life. He'd spent years angry about what I wouldn't give him. Now he understood I'd given him everything that mattered: values, principles, an example of how to live with integrity. The $340,000 I'd left to charity had funded medical treatments for 3 families, college educations for 8 students, and disaster relief for dozens more. The money I'd saved through decades of hard work was helping people who actually needed it. Tyler's $90,000 wedding would have given him 1 day of appearances. My charitable bequest gave strangers chances at better lives. 10 years after my death, Tyler received a letter from one of the scholarship recipients, a young woman named Maria, who'd used the scholarship to study electrical engineering, started her own contracting business, and just won a major commercial project. "Your father's scholarship changed my life," she wrote. "I grew up in poverty and never thought I'd own a business. Now I employ 6 people, and I'm teaching my daughter that honest work and integrity matter more than appearances. I'm passing on the values your father believed in." Tyler framed that letter next to the penny in my letter, 3 frames in his office. 1 penny, 2 letters, and a lifetime of lessons finally learned. When Robert was old enough to understand, Tyler told him the story about the wedding demand, the lawsuit, the safe, the penny, the letter. "Was Grandpa mean?" Robert asked. "No," Tyler said. "He was wise. He knew I needed to learn something important, and he loved me enough to teach me even if it was hard." "What did you learn?" Tyler picked up the penny from its frame and let Robert hold it. "I learned that this penny represents my lowest moment, the moment I valued money more than family. And I learned that Grandpa's forgiveness, his patience, his willingness to let me find my way back, that was worth more than any inheritance. I don't understand. You will someday. When you're tempted to judge yourself by what you have instead of who you are. When someone offers you something easy instead of something right. When you have to choose between appearances and integrity." Tyler spoke about the safe, about the penny, about the letter. "My father taught me that the best inheritance isn't money. It's wisdom. And the hardest lessons are often the most valuable." One of the charity beneficiaries stood up. "Robert Mitchell's donation paid for my daughter's cancer treatment. She's in remission now, healthy, alive. I never met him, but his generosity saved her life." Another person spoke. "His scholarship let me escape poverty. I'm now an electrical engineer making 6 figures. I'm helping my whole family because of what you left behind. Story after story, lives changed not by what I'd given my son, but by what I'd given to strangers who needed it more. After the memorial, Derek and Tyler sat in my old kitchen, in the house Derek now owned, drinking coffee at the same table where Tyler had once slammed down wedding contracts. "Do you ever regret it?" Derek asked. "Not getting the inheritance?" Tyler thought about it. Every dollar Dad left to charity did more good than it would have sitting in my bank account. Those families, those students, they needed it. I didn't. That's growth. That's Dad. He knew I'd eventually understand. He just had to wait for me to catch up. Tyler pulled the penny from his pocket. He'd started carrying it everywhere, a physical reminder of lessons learned. "You know what the crazy part is?" Tyler said. "I'm wealthier now than I would have been with the inheritance." "How do you figure?" "Because I'm not trying to impress anyone anymore. I'm not spending money to prove my worth. Madison and I live below our means. We save, we invest. We're building actual wealth, not the appearance of wealth." Derek smiled. Dad would be proud. I hope so. Tyler held up the penny to the light. "This cent is my most valuable possession. Not because of what it's worth, but because of what it represents." 20 years after my death, Tyler was 52, the same age I'd been when Ellen and I paid off our house, when we started seriously saving for retirement. He built a successful career, not through showing off or impressing people, but through solid work and integrity. He'd raised Robert to value character over possessions. He'd maintained his relationships with Derek, with Madison, with the principles I'd tried to instill. The scholarship fund had grown to $200,000 through Tyler's ongoing contributions and community fundraising. 32 students had graduated with trade certifications, all carrying forward the values of honest work and integrity. One evening, Robert, now 15, asked his father a question. "Dad, if Grandpa had left you the money instead of the penny, what would be different?" Tyler thought about it carefully. "Everything and nothing. I'd probably have spent it years ago on things that don't matter. I'd be less wealthy, less happy, less wise. But I'd also never have learned the most important lesson of my life, which is, that value isn't about what you have. It's about who you are and what you do with what you're given. Grandpa gave me very little, but he taught me everything." Robert nodded, processing this. "When I'm older, will you give me a penny too?" Tyler laughed. "Only if you need the same lesson I did. I hope you're smarter than I was." On the 25th anniversary of my death, Tyler stood at my grave with Derek, their children, and their grandchildren. He'd brought the penny, the one from the safe, and he told the story one more time to the youngest generation. "Your great-grandfather was a man who understood what mattered," he said. "He built things that lasted, not just buildings and businesses, but values and principles. When I wanted money for the wrong reasons, he said no. When I finally understood why, he wasn't there to hear me thank him. But I thank him every day by trying to live the way he taught me." Tyler placed the penny on the gravestone for a moment, then picked it back up. "This penny has been my compass for 25 years. It's kept me pointed toward what's real and away from what's empty. That's a better inheritance than any amount of money." As they walked back to their cars, Robert asked his father, "Dad, do you think you'll ever spend that penny?" Tyler smiled. "No, son. Some things are too valuable to spend." That penny stayed in Tyler's pocket every day for the rest of his life. When he died at 78, his will left it to Robert with a letter of his own, explaining the story, the lessons, the wisdom passed down through generations. The charity I'd endowed continued its work, funding scholarships, helping families, changing lives. My name lived on not through wealth passed to children who didn't need it, but through generosity extended to strangers who did. Derek often said I'd given Tyler the hardest gift possible, the gift of seeing himself clearly. It had taken years for Tyler to unwrap it, to understand it, to appreciate it. But once he did, it changed everything. The safe sat in Tyler's office for the rest of his life, empty except for dust and memories. But it had served its purpose. It had delivered exactly what I'd intended, not punishment, not revenge, just truth. 1 penny, 1 letter, 1 lesson that lasted a lifetime. That was my real legacy, not the money I'd saved, but the wisdom I'd passed on. Not the possessions I'd accumulated, but the principles I'd lived by. Tyler had wanted $300,000 for a wedding that would have lasted a day. Instead, I'd given him something that lasted forever, an understanding of what actually matters. In the end, the safe wasn't empty. It was full of everything that counts.